these philosophies and you look at the way Rome carried themselves and the theologians and the Athenians and everything like that, you get a grip and a great understanding that Rome used as much logic in their warfare as they did might. We all know about the 300 soldiers that fought against a whole Persian army, all right? They isolated. So
that was real. That's something that actually happened.
Yeah, they isolated their numbers through a thin area of, you know, the ravine that they had that went off the cliff. It didn't matter how many soldiers that they had at that point. They had to funnel down. So, which means they wouldn't have been overtaken by all of them. That is brains. That's chess, not checkers. Let's think about the fall of the Mali Empire, because everybody don't understand that. You know what I mean? The empire didn't fall until the death of Mansa Musa. Now, Mansa Musa was known for having a devoutly large army. Like, a really large army. He had...
So he had military, of course.
Yeah. He had a military. Because when he made the Hajj to Mecca, they say he took slaves, servants, pounds of gold, everything. It's a whole story about how he crashed the infrastructure of Mecca because he had so much gold. Alright, to the point that he had to buy gold back just to level out the oppression of gold. Alright, real, I ain't getting into that. So, when you're talking about warfare, after he died, it was left between his children and everything like that. When you look at the research, if you research the lineage of who took the mantle after he died, you can see that, like, strategically, like every 2-3 years, a new head was being taken in place. They were overtaking each other. And the way that the Mali Empire worked, it worked similar to how the Ghana Empire worked before Mali took over. So there were multiple tribes with kings that answered to the main king, which was the Mansa. So when he died, if nobody was there to strategically keep all the kings together in coherence, then it could fall apart. So then that's when you have the Portuguese and the British coming in and talking to each tribe differently and basically making them talk against each other to the point where they go in war with each other, you know, capture one another as slaves of war and sell them to the person that's helping them. You know what I mean? Because they probably coming in and giving them the things that they need in order to succeed in certain areas. Giving them, they were known, even if you look up documentaries to today, certain tribes were known for getting things from the British or Portuguese for having slaves, such as liquors and salts and other things like that they would trade for.
From the Portuguese, you said?
Yeah. Because of, it was a trade. It wasn't an exchange of just money. It wasn't just gold. It was a trade. It's like, all right, we'll give you these slaves, but what are you giving us? And they will come there with precious items.
So you're saying that this whole concept of a paper dollar is actually relatively new?
Before slavery, yes. In that time period, you gotta understand that's how Mali gained its power. Is because they had so much gold that was also a trade in value.
Real gold.
They had real gold.
They
didn't trade money. No, they had real gold. He owned the majority of the gold mines that's in Africa. So if you think about all the gold mines that's in Africa right now, he owned every last one of them. Alright, that's why he was so doggone rich. He can go there and he can buy salts for his people, because, you know, salts was a preservative back in the day. They didn't have refrigerators and shit like that. So they used salt to help preserve their meats and preserve their food so they can last longer. That's why they needed that material. Then you had the other material that they also had in abundance, such as the ivory, and then they would get the silks from somewhere else. And that's why Timbuktu was known for what it was known for, because it was a large trading center. And then the reason why Mansa Musa had so much gold he could move around is because of him being a devout Muslim, he was also able to get the protection from the Muslims when it came to his trade routes. And they were,
by Muslims, are you referring to a race of people or people of that religion? So
at that time, being a Muslim, even being a Christian as well, made you susceptible to a certain way of treatment. All right. So they will even in Christianity, they could identify who was a Christian based upon the coins that they gave them, because they would have, you know, a cross on it or something like that. And there was a law both in Christianity and in Muslim belief that a Muslim could not technically enslave another Muslim. You can't do that. That's against Muslim belief. Christianity developed the same thing. So if you enslave somebody who was already Christian, it became something that was detestable on that side, as well as on the other side. So the way they identified each other was not just by what they claimed to believe, but based also in things that they gave. And that's when you get the cross and the crest. That's where you get that. And even when you look at the knights of shining armor, of how they had it in Christian beliefs, you know what I mean, over there in Europe, they had the giant red crosses on them as they knights. Even in their swords, it looks like a cross because it identifies them with that belief. You know what I'm talking about? So all of these things were just how we view them today. Markers. You know, people would say that people do this, it represents white power. You know what I mean? It's identifying markers.
Symbols.
Sigils. You know what I mean? So those identifying markers identify automatically from a person that's looking at you how they're going to treat you. If they're going to treat you fairly, okay, this is a Christian, I'm going to treat him fairly. Oh, this is a Muslim, it's different in our Christianity belief, I'm not going to give them the same treatment. That is exactly, they've been separated that way. That's why there were so many holy wars, okay, between Spanish and Christians and all the rest of that stuff. There's so many different holy wars inside of the medieval time period. It's ridiculous. But if we going back to the basics again, they supported Mansa Musa when it came to his trade routes, and he had their protection, which means nobody could just, you know, rob his caravans and things of that nature that he was, you know, pushing from one area to another because he had so much gold. So he not only had his large army, but he also had, you know, divine protection from Mecca because he made that Hajj and everything like that, and showed his devoutness of being a Muslim. So they couldn't really support him after a while because there are stories about how different Muslim travelers will come to visit Mali and how they didn't practice the belief as firmly as they did in the holy city. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, some of the women were covered, and you know they would walk around topless. You know how African women were at that time. It wasn't a bad thing for a woman to walk around with her body out like that because they didn't look at her in that way.
They were more civilized.
Exactly. So, you know, they come there and it's like they say in each story they said the greetings were great, and he was wealthy, as just as the stories has told, and he would give them they'll come in and he'll give them a certain amount of gold, and it was a great greeting. But then where they got upset was in how the tradition was